probably just a little shy of an hour, and that will be the morning session. We'll then have lunch break for everybody so we can get nourished, and then we will be working in vertical curriculum work time in the afternoon. And Mary's put together a pretty nice plan for our teachers. It really will allow conversations to occur between the buildings in terms of the curriculum flow, try to identify curricular areas that we're maybe double dipping on, and opportunities that we have to improve that vertical flow as a student works their way through our system. Really important in a district like ours, where the great majority of students are ours all the way through. And so, making sure that we have that longitudinal vertical alignment is really important work. And Mary also has had some teacher leaders volunteer. Honestly, we didn't get quite as many as we were hoping for, but we do have teacher leaders who will be leading some PD sessions on other curriculum and technology related trainings for their peers. So that will be our day on March 9th. Are there any questions or comments on it? This is so weird, I can't read a room. All right. So next up, we've got the enrollment and kindergarten grade 1 registration. So you can click the link there. And you can see that we took this on February 19th, the last day of the month of February. So bizarre to say the 19th was the last day, but it was. And you can see across the district, we had one fewer student on that day. There were 2 fewer students at the high school, the same number at the middle school, and 1 additional at Griffin. We also are reporting that our kindergarten registrations for next year are up to 64. If we compare that to probably the closest historical number, you have to look at the 60 or 62 that we've had last year. So we're sort of right on track with that. And then our first grade number is at 69. And that again compares to a 78 number. So first grade is down a little bit, but the kindergarten numbers are about the same. So let me pause there and see if anybody has questions on the enrollment number.
But those comparisons are helpful. I mean, that's what we talked about the last time. Just try to get, a snapshot of what it was last year at that time and this year at that time. And I think gives you a good, clear picture.
Yeah, and it was pretty easy data to add in. And you can see that we've added that for the trigger dates that we used last year. So the end of March, the end of May, and then going into the summer in June. Yeah. Those are already outlined, and we'll just keep adding to it up above and making a comparison to see where we sit. You are sitting across from a slightly nervous elementary principal who's watching those numbers pretty closely. So he just wants to make sure that we've got the right staffing down there. And I can't blame him. That's his job. He's got to pay attention to that. All right, next up is a link to a document called 5-Year Construction Planning. So let me frame this a little bit for the board. This is a draft document. So we shared it with the facilities committee that met a little while ago, and I'm sure Brian's going to give a report out on that further down on the agenda. But the audience for this is really the entire town. And I know that some folks have been concerned about Facebook chatter or social media chatter about the projects that we're proposing. And so what we're trying to do is to get a one-pager, front and back document that really clearly explains what the projects are at all 3 schools, what timeline we're looking at all 3 schools, what funding sources we have identified at all 3 schools, so that we can just sort of get this out there in the public, because everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but there's a lot of chatter about the new elementary school. But if you look at the document, you'll see that that would be going before the voters in March of 2023, which is 2 years out. So there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of pencil sharpening to be done, and a lot of unknowns that need to be answered before we can really get to that point. So we just thought it was important to get that timeline laid out and in front of the town, so that we all know where it stands. So this is a draft document, and I say that because it's been shared with everybody on the board and everybody on the facility planning committee. You all have editing privilege. we're going to keep working on it. Our goal is to get it finalized. So if any board members see anything that doesn't make sense, make comments on it, notations, whatever you need to do. We want to get it brushed up over the next 2 weeks and then bring it back to the school board for consideration on our next meeting, which is March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. So we will hopefully have the document back there and get it finalized. And if we need to take more time to finalize it, that's okay. You can see the timeline is from 2020 to 2025. So we've really got some time to get this pulled together and to get it finalized. Let me pause and see if anybody has questions or comments on that document. All right. That is actually the last thing that I had to speak to. So I will turn it back over to the board chair.
So we just got a message from Patrick Keefe, who's trying to join the Google Meet.
So the Google Meet is only available for the board members. Patrick, I'll text Patrick, but he should be watching the meeting on the YouTube channel. Yeah. And he wasn't in the public meet, so I'll just text him so he knows how to access that.
Okay, good. All right. That brings us to school board comments. Anyone? No? All right. Public minutes from February 17th, 2021 for approval.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from February 17th, 2021.
I'll second.
Further conversation? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. 4-0-0. So that will bring us to the end. The GMS Principals Report.
Excellent, thank you. So I did submit my report to you a few days ago, so if you didn't get a chance to read it over, I'll just highlight a few points and then I'm actually going to turn it over for a quick presentation. But a few things I wanted to point out and a couple things that aren't there that I'd like to let you know about and also kind of, while I had the public's ear, kind of announce them. So first off, week before vacation was when we celebrated Read Across America Week. And at the beginning of the week, I had the grand idea of asking people to send in pictures, thinking I'd get a few to do a slideshow. 135 pictures later.
Wow.
And a lot of clicking, dragging, and pasting every single day. One of them being that snow ice day, so I got a lot from home. But for your pleasure, you can click on the live link of the slideshow and just kind of scroll through to see some of the fun things that we did for those 5 days leading to vacation. Two things that aren't in the report, but for future knowledge. Over break, I met with a few parents at GMS who were interested in reviving, not really reviving because it didn't happen last year, but doing the Girls on the Run program this year. And they had a number of volunteers and they submitted a plan through the Girls on the Run organization, actually came up with their own health and safety plan, as well as amended lessons to take into account social distancing and all the mitigating factors. And it met my muster, and I passed it off to Dr. Jetty, and it passed his muster. So starting April 5th, we will have Girls on the Run. Registration is, I believe, now open, and they were going to put it out on their kind of community Facebook pages, and it will be in the blog this week. It looks like right now we will have enough coach volunteers to run 2 teams, and I believe the ratios are 18-2. So we should be able to get to 36 girls running.
It's an awesome program.
It is.
That
It's a
is
great
great.
program. It actually, when I was in Hampton a number of years ago, that's kind of where Girls on the Run started in the state. So the first race was out there, and then it got too big for that school, and it went to Exeter. And then from Exeter, it got too big, and it went to somewhere else. And now it's like the entire town of Concord. It takes over. So it's a great
Awesome.
program that has taken off, and I love it. So I was glad that we had the interest, and it was able to kind of accommodate for the time. So we'll be doing that. Also, we are in the early development of, believe it or not, field day for this year. and trying to bring back, any sliver of normalcy that we can. And so Mrs. Strat, who is actually going to speak, and Mrs. Gerzone are kind of taking the lead on that. And we're looking to kind of blend field day with the old STEAM nights that we used to do into kind of a one day. So we're forming a committee so that we make sure that we have perspective from all the staff to make sure that it is a good and beneficial experience for all, and also takes in all their perspectives so that we can kind of, as I said, kind of salvage a bit of normalcy. So those are the only things I kind of wanted to highlight. But now what I did want to do is turn over her quick presentation. If you remember last time I presented, Mr. Isbicki and Mrs. Starrett worked to gain funds to basically completely outfit our first Lego league at GMS. And so it began the week before February vacation. And so what I thought I'd do is I'd bring three people on to give you three different perspectives. So I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Starrett. And we've also invited my friend Abby Son, who's going to let you know what it's like from the student perspective, and her willing father, John Davidson, who can maybe give us some parent perspective about this. Again, it is a valuable experience that we're just trying to salvage and do in a safe and fun and compatible way while the pandemic is still a part of our reality. So I'm going to actually hand it over to Mrs. Starrett and the Sun family.
So we are in the early stages of getting the kids going. They just had their second meeting today, actually, after school. And this year, it's fully remote for right now. I would imagine it probably will just be fully remote through, because we have a variety of participants. We've got a couple kids who are always remote. We've got a couple kids who are in the after-school program, and they come down, they get their box from the art room, they bring it back to the cafeteria where the after-school program happens, and they do their participation down there. And then we have kids who are also at home, like Abby. So this year, we believe we will be able to successfully do the whole thing remote, because the first organization has really designed the curriculum to be very flexible, and they've provided materials that we can post for the kids to complete online. So it's been easy to set up, because First has really made it very simple. Abby, do you want to talk about your experience so far? So why were you first interested in Lego League when you saw we were going to be doing it?
Because I wanted to meet new people and see what I could build out of Legos.
So, and that's a great reason to join Lego League, is that we're doing a different activity than we normally do in school. Even though we're remote, Abby is in second grade, but she's with kids that are in second, third, and fourth grade. So she's getting to meet kids who maybe she doesn't know, because she doesn't have recess with them. She doesn't have common times with other grade levels. So, and really our classes don't mix a whole lot this year. So she's getting to see and learn about how other people's, what are other people's opinions, what are other people into, or interested in. So Abby, what's been your favorite part so far? I know we've only met twice, but what has been your favorite so far?
Probably building today what we did. We had one color and we had to make our favorite animal.
Do you still have your animal?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Can anyone guess what animal that is?
The dog.
Brachiosaurus.
That's kind of. What is it,
Giraffe.
Abby? I guessed it right away.
Is it a
The
blue
giraffe.
giraffe? Love it.
Oh, I have sons. We like dinosaurs.
It
really-
did look like a brachiosaurus.
But it does look like a giraffe.
That long neck.
It does. We also did an interesting activity today too to teach the kids about coding. So it was really about step-by-step design. Do you want to talk about that, Abby, at all?
I have it right here.
Ooh.
So it's a little hard to read. Can you explain what it is?
Kind of like, so we had to go to our seat and then walk and touch a wall and then come back. So we kind of had to like write down the steps, and also we had to put like some like kind of like jumping jacks or other stuff in it.
So that ties in with our curriculum for First Lego League this year is based around exercise and movement. So to teach the kids about step-by-step code and how, well, before you can move forward, you have to stand up. Before you can do an activity like a jumping jack, you have to stop. So those are all things you have to write in a code. So we came up with a fun way for the kids to physically do it, since it's all about movement and motion.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, Abby?
And this was the first thing I did on the first day of Lego League. We had to draw ourselves.
Draw yourselves doing an activity that you enjoy. So dance is something that Abby is very passionate about. So she did herself dancing. Is there anything you hope to do in the future classes that we have for Lego League? Well, we're going to be getting into the robotics soon.
She did share with me. She loves building with Lego. She loves following the instructions and the step by step. And she told me one of the things that she wants to gain out of this is to be able to build things independently without following the directions. So much like she did with the giraffe today, being able to build things on her own and create and design without necessarily following a step by step direction.
From a parent perspective, John, how has it seemed remote? I've never taught First Lego League remote, but I think we're getting better and better with this remote thing.
Yeah, it's been really good. It's actually today. I was in a meeting and my wife had to go pick up our other daughter, and I came downstairs and Abby was working independently, navigating Google Classroom and Seesaw and taking pictures of her work and submitting it and asking questions. And so from a parent's perspective, she's very independent. She's navigating the technology, and I think it's something that's exciting to see them do. I think as a father of two girls, I love seeing opportunities for girls in STEM and engineering opportunities. So I think it's a big plus for the community and the school district and the GMS to have these types of opportunities, not just for girls, but for all of our kids to explore this, figure out if they want to be future engineers.
Yeah, that's one of the nice things about the program is it's designed for everyone. Do we have any questions from the board or anything else we want to touch on for the robotics?
Questions? Nope, not at this time.
Okay.
Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks
Nice
for
meeting you,
sharing.
Abby.
Thanks, Abby.
Good job, Abby. Thank you, Mrs. Strutt. Oh, Mrs. Strutt, I know it's you. It's also Mrs. McMullen. Is there anyone else that deserves some credit for putting this all together?
Actually, I had to bribe people to even get involved this year because nobody wants anything else on their plate. Call me crazy. I couldn't let it. I was one of the people who wrote the grant that brought the first Lego League to GMS, and the original setup for it, 4 years ago now. I couldn't let it die. I was worried that if we didn't do it this year, it wouldn't come back. So I had to bribe Mrs. McMullen to coach with me because each coach can only have 6 kids. So in order to involve all the kids that applied, I needed another coach. So
Do you need any more volunteers?
I think we're all set because we actually got the exact number of committed kids of what we had hoped.
Perfect.
So we're all set for this year. It's definitely going to be a different Lego season.
Mhm.
But we hope to do a remote expo in May.
Awesome. Thank you for stepping up and continuing the program.
No problem. I mean, it has been frustrating at times just
Yeah.
trying to find time to sort Legos because, like Abby said, I gave every kid at home a different color Lego or a single color Lego. Abby has blue, but we had a bag of blue, a bag of yellow, a bag of green, and I sat there over vacation sorting. I sorted after school. I sorted before school. So it was a lot of work to set it up, but it's totally worth it. The kids seem super into it, even though it's remote.
Awesome.
And also kudos to like John David and Abby and the kids on their side because not really thrust on them, but they kind of signed up in the first session. They realized that they were using Seesaw, which was a program and platform that they were not familiar with. And so already, week one, there was those glitches, but already week two, I think it's already running a little bit smoother. So they've been able to adapt and adjust even to yet another platform for remote delivery. So
yeah, we spent the whole first class learning Seesaw. That's what that was.
Mike
popped up on the thing.
commented in the chat and it popped up for Robin.
excellent. Thank you, Mrs. Stratton. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sons.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome.
Have fun.
Thank you. Bye.
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 She's adorable.
I know, right?
Does anyone have anything else for Dan?
Yeah, that's it.
I just have one for you because it was a comment that came.
Somebody let Lays in and oh, it's weird.
I won't take that personally.
That's okay. During the roundtable of school board candidates the other day,
Yes.
one of the candidates brought up homework at GMS. Second grade, that her child has
2 hours of homework.
at least 2 hours of homework. I thought it was more than that, she said, but
This is the first I'm hearing of that.
I don't recall when my kids were at GMS that they ever had 2 hours of homework. But
No.
I never did.
I think that's a discussion for
Still don't.
parent to teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone has an issue with homework, I'd encourage them to reach out to me directly so that I can address it on a case by case.
You think
But I-
that's excessive for a second grader?
Yeah.
I taught second grade. The rule of thumb is a half hour per grade. I never gave my second graders.
Oh yeah, no. The general rule of thumb I use is 10 to 15 minutes
10
per grade
minutes,
level.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's our guidance.
I don't know if we actually have the policy
I think-
guidance, but
I think it's in the GMS handbook.
yeah.
It's not a board policy.
okay. Thank you.
If that parent reaches out, I'd be happy to address it.
Anything else from Mr. Mitchell before we let him go? All right.
Thank
very
you.
much. Have a great evening.
Someone asked me to stick around just in case.
Okay.
And then we'll turn it over to Corey.
All right, so Mike had shared before the draft 5-year plan. So as our first step in this, we did an RFQ process for a construction manager at LMS to address some of the pieces that we want to get done this summer. Being a multi-year project, the RFQs came in February 19th. We identified 4 contractors to come in and visit the school and take a look at the lay of the land and then submit RFPs. We did a direct solicitation to those 4 that we chose out of the qualification statements. The next step will be the RFPs are due back to us election day, March 9th, with an award to be given on March 19th, and at which point we can start getting some schematic design down and hammering down some costs in terms of the projects. So at this point, that's where we are in the process, and we're hoping to get what we're calling phase 1 of the project at LMS done this summer, which involves window replacement, roofing work. There's a small renovation to take place in the main office, and there's an HVAC unit that needs some serious help. So we are going to work towards those things. So hopefully we'll be able to report over the next couple months some progress in terms of what we're looking at in terms of cost.
Good, thank you. That'll bring us to committee reports. I don't know if anyone else has met. No, the budget committee still has not met. So the one that's listed under here is Facilities Improvement Committee, and I think we've already touched on it several times, but one of the things in that draft report, that once you take a look at it, I think that's important. It lists sources of revenues or revenues on hand right now as far as for completion of some of these jobs. Because we do have a good sum of money right now that will cover quite a few of the expenditures that we're looking forward to doing at LMS. We spent some time this evening also talking about the continued improvements of ventilation at both Campbell High School. Mostly the focus right now is on LMS, and they've been doing some work. And GMS is also going to be, I can't recall who it is that's going there.
Viking?
Oh, it was Viking Controls.
Viking.
Was
Viking
there.
Controls.
Yep.
But all three schools have had extensive work done as far as HVAC and circulation of air, and they've come quite a bit of a ways. We asked and tried to peg down this evening, can you give us like a number or a grade of where we're at? And it's kind of still hard because it's still in the works. But it's been a vast improvement for all three schools. They had a test done on the roof at LMS, where LMS is going to get a new roof. It's just what's underneath the roof right now and what condition it's in. The insulation is much better than was first anticipated, which is a good thing. But as Corey said, the RFQ is out there for a contractor, and once we have that person in place, they will then oversee the subcontractors to perform the work that's needed at that school. And really, I think that's the gist of it. That draft, once it's finalized by the board, and I think it's going to be very helpful to the public to see, just a snapshot of expenditures and needed repairs in the different schools and a timeline of when those things will be done. Do you have anything to add to it?
No, it's good to see the plan, kind of all laid out and how it relates to each of the three schools.
And I think, like Mike said, I think it goes right up to like 2025, like the series of dates.
Yeah, fall of 24 is, I think, the last entry.
I mean, I think it's with all the work that we've done with the town to work in the capital improvement plan with the town, identifying the things that the schools need. And we're just carrying that one step further and making sure that people have a real good idea on exactly what we're doing and what the plan is. So it's just continuing on, because that seemed like the last time we had a capital improvement plan, it kind of sat, and not as many things could be done but we're really putting the effort in to get these things done to the buildings that need to be done.
Yeah, I think it was Dick Henry today who's in the meeting who said, it's 20 years in the making, some of these repairs on the HVAC systems, and we're uncovering 2 decades of issues and things that haven't been installed correctly or haven't been operating at all. And it's been really eye-opening.
And the consultants have been very, very open and honest about the fact that as you do this work, you discover, okay, now it's functioning, but is it functioning correctly? So we continue to find things that need to be addressed a bit more. So it's part of the process after years of deferred maintenance on some of these systems.
And believe it or not, we're at the point right now that talk about getting into the modern world, that right now all 3 schools are monitored through a laptop. So all the HVAC, the heat, the air conditioning, just air conditioning, but all the ventilation, it's all controlled. And at any given time, someone can pick up that laptop in maintenance and take a look at exactly how the systems are working.
It's amazing.
It's a far cry from where we were just 6 months ago. So.
And we'll have 4 or 5 people in house that will be trained on that system to know how to get in and, maybe not necessarily make adjustments, but we'll be able to view it and see what's going on in certain areas.
And if you think of it in the long run, I mean, the cost savings there, if you happen to jump on and you see a boiler's not going, instead of waiting, say it's school vacation, you go an entire week without knowing. Well, now you have it right there in front of you. It can be taken care of. Good. All right. Anything else on facilities?
Brian, if I just may, one key thing, just while we're on the energy piece for a second, so Dick shared with the committee kind of a startling fact, and that is that Griffin, which is 15% smaller than the middle school,
14.
is using 40% more energy than the middle
Oil.
school. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Oil in particular.
that was just, to me, a real shocking number. We know that it's not an efficient building, but boy, 40% increased costs tells me that we've got heat just going through the roof and out the windows and so forth. And it's one more example of the need to get after that building, because the taxpayers are just putting dollars out the window at this point, and it really pinpoints the need to take action.
Good. Thank you. All right. With that, I'll bring us on to new business. NHSBA legislative updates.
So there are a series of links there. I know that the board is getting pretty frequent emails from NHSBA because it's a pretty active legislative cycle right now. And so Michelle has provided a link to kind of a summary of some of the documents that have popped into your inboxes, and an update on some of the bills that are really being watched pretty closely. So two that are important are the so-called voucher bills. So whether it's House Bill 20 or Senate Bill 130, both of those are a way for individuals to use taxes that were collected for the public school system to provide a private education. And there are, in the opinions of many people, a lot of flaws with the way those have been written. And there's been quite a bit of outcry. So at this point, House Bill 20 has been retained and is not moving forward at this point. I think it was a unanimous decision of House Ed. And Senate Bill 130, I believe, is being heard tomorrow, if I have the right date on it. And so there's an opportunity for people to sign in and to let their opinions be known about that one. It may have been today. I may have my days mixed up, to be honest.
It's tomorrow morning.
SB
Either
130, I think, was yesterday.
Michelle, thinks yesterday.
Oh, right,
And
4:55
is
tomorrow.
4:55 is tomorrow.
That's the one I'm thinking of. And 455 basically just takes the entire concept of public schools as we know them away. And it means that every school in the state is open to every child in the state, and a family can pick and choose where they want to go. And you can see when we're struggling with keeping track of our own enrollment numbers, to then have an unknown of students moving and potentially enrolling, that's big. And you know, I hate to say this, but we provide what's the way I want to describe it? We're kind of a more rural opportunity for our students in Litchfield, but we're adjacent to some more urban areas. And, you know, somebody could easily latch on and say, I like that school system better, and that's where I'd like my child to go. And so I think it would really present a number of problems for us if that bill were to pass. So the board should definitely pay attention to the emails that are coming from Barrett, who is the executive director of your association. And I'm watching the emails that are coming from Carl and Jerry, who are for the School Administrators Association, and just, you know, trying to do my best to try to be heard on those.
Thank you. And that will bring us to policy review, the reapproval of the following policies.
Yep, and just a reminder for the board, these were all in the folder at the last meeting, and these are all policies that were found not to have any updates, so they are simply being reapproved. And Michelle has already begun to populate the folder for the next meeting, so board members are reminded to be on the lookout for the policies that are being dropped in there. But for these, we are looking for a review, reapproval without any updates or changes.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve policy BCA, BCAA, BCB, BDD, BDE, BDG, BEA, BEB, BEDA, is that EF?
F.
BFE, BGD.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I have 3 things on them. So when you say reapproval, we didn't approve them last month. These are older policies that we're looking at again, right? Okay. So my first comment is on BCAA and has to do with a chain of command. We say, explain how important it is to follow a proper chain of command at the district and board level if contacted by a parent or other citizen about a school problem. I would just propose we change the wording of that. I don't like the word chain of command. To me, that is like militant. You know, I think that it's important. I think I would rather see it worded like, let's explain how important it is to address complaints in the most direct manner, which is aligned with our complaint policy, GBK/KE. The chain of command thing just doesn't sit well with me. You know, I understand that, you know, to me, it's more important you address your problems with who you have the problem with first. I would just rather see that type of wording. And the complaint policy doesn't use the chain of command wording either. So that's my proposal. So that's the first thing. And then, Michelle, did you already make changes to the his and her on that other? Do I need to bring that up?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So there were just, it's all set. Okay. And then BEDA, public notification of board meetings. My comment is that, okay, so let's see. It says the school board will announce at least 24 hours in advance, excluding Sundays and legal holidays, through 2 public postings, and when possible by the newspapers and the local radio station. And my comment is that seems really dated. Should we put on there that we're going to post it on our website or online and through social media? And Michelle had commented that, you know, yes, the law does state that it has to have newspaper and local radio station in there, I guess. But, you know, I feel like we should update that to what we're actually doing.
Absolutely.
LCT.
Is that considered a newspaper or online magazine or social media? I'm just curious.
I consider it an online newspaper,
Online, okay.
paid for by the next fee we collect the cable, so the town's paying for it. Town newspaper.
So those are my 2 suggested slight changes.
What if we change, Tara, on the first one, the policy BCAA, about the chain of command?
Yep.
What if we say, explain how important it is to contact the appropriate administrator, or I understand what you want to say. I'm just thinking instead of chain of command,
Right.
To go through the proper channels at the school district and board level. We start at the
But I
school
think the chain
level.
of command really tells you, I mean, that's what it is. You need to follow the chain of command.
Well, if you look at the complaint policy, it doesn't talk about chain of command. It talks about addressing it with the most direct person. Let's look at that real quick. I don't have that right now, so let me just grab that.
I wouldn't have a problem changing it to follow the proper channels. Is that less? I think it says the same thing. It's just,
If you say proper channels and then refer to the complaint policy,
Yeah.
then it's right there.
Yeah.
So then I'm fine with that.
That's easy to make. That's an easy change to make. We can just say, explain how important it is to follow a proper channel. And reference the policy at the district and board level if contacted by a parent or other citizen about school problem. Very easy fix.
It's fine.
So I would think you'd want to, if we are amending 2 of these or revising 2 of these, those 2 you want to do
Just
separately from the
Yeah,
others.
that's fine. So
Okay.
should I amend my motion to
Just take
approve
out
them?
BCA and. the
All
other one.
right, take out BCAA and
Yep.
another one that starts with
I would
B.
suggest that we just bring those back next meeting with the changes so you can
Sure.
see exactly what it looks like.
Okay.
We have time. Time's on our side. It's a friend.
That's true.
So you just amend it, we can just approve the others. So BCAA,
Yeah.
what's the other one? But the other one,
BEDA.
BED.
Yeah.
but I thought we didn't have to amend that.
If you want to take out local radio station, that's fine, and put in other media.
Online and
Outlets-
social, online.
We could make
Online
it, could we
outlets.
make it the community television? The,
I don't
It
like
says
to be
local television,
too,
that is.
oh,
local
it does?
Specific.
Okay.
I don't like to be too specific
Yeah,
in
yeah.
policies because you're held to it.
Yeah.
So if that ever changes, then you have to change the policy again. So I
Right.
would just say
Just take out the radio
other
station.
public online outlets
Other
or something
online.
like that.
Yes,
Yep.
that would be fine.
Other local media.
Right.
Other
Other-
local media, yeah.
Local or online media.
Do
yeah.
we still post a meeting notice? Where do we post them? At the district? At the
We
schools?
post them at every school, at the library. I do send one over to the town. I don't know that they post it. I mean, I must post it, and it's online, so I must post it at 6 different places.
Yeah, okay, just making sure.
Did you make your amendment?
So the board has a bulletin board in the Campbell lobby too, right? Is it-
Yes,
Yeah, but
That's-
nobody goes
Public
in there.
place.
we have
They're
to,
not there anymore.
well, I'd like to, at some point in the future, talk to the board about, see if we can move that outside.
Hmm.
Because people can't see it.
Yeah, unless they go into the building. That's a good point.
So we're bringing this one back.
Could be the same thing with LMS.
Okay.
In that vestibule, the nice new vestibule.
Somewhere outside though,
Yeah,
so people can see.
right, right.
That makes sense. All right, do you want to make your amendment?
Okay.
Did I already? Amend my motion to, remove policy BCAA and BEDA from approval, from reapproval at this time.
So we have amended motion. Is there a second? And we have a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. And we'll bring those two back along with the next set. All right, that'll bring us to old business, really old. Coronavirus review and update.
Coming up on the 1 year
Old.
anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Today
man.
actually is the 1 year anniversary for the first case in New Hampshire.
Well, some things are old are new again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so let me just give the public an update on me and why I'm working remotely tonight. So I've done, basically, we made it almost a year. I've done all the right things. I've been really good about masking, really good about social distancing, and very conservative on enforcing the rules and expectations that we have. And yet somehow my entire family has come down with being positive for COVID-19. So we're not exactly sure how we got it. We're not sure how it got introduced. The good news is that it came on over the school break, and didn't really know that I had anything until Sunday. I was feeling a little off, and then I decided to just be on the, practice what I preach, and stayed home on Monday just to make sure that everything was fine, and decided to go get a test on Tuesday, and it turned out to be positive, which then led to my wife and daughters also testing. So at this point, it's more time for the Jetty family in the house, and we will be set to return back to school and work on March. What is it going to be? The 10th, I guess. So it's really an interesting illness. There's no doubt about it. The good news is that we all, at this point, knock on wood as I say it, we all have relatively minor symptoms. And are doing okay with it. I've got a bit of a cough that's annoying, but that's about where I stand with it. So, but it definitely, you think you're doing all the right things, but you still have to go out to the stores and you still have to do some activities, and ultimately it got us somehow. So, so I'll just pause on that for a second and take a look at the rest of the stuff to talk about on coronavirus. So from a learning point of view, the numbers in the school district definitely took a little bit of an uptick over the last few days. I don't know if it's because people had, traveled and had different interactions over the break, but we are definitely seeing a little bit of an uptick at the middle school. I just got another text from the middle school principal that there's another positive case that they're in the middle of contact tracing right now. So, so their numbers have definitely had a little bit of movement on them. He is at 10 staff who are quarantined and 8 students who are quarantined. He had 1 positive staff, and now he's going to be adding a positive student into that. So that's the LMS story. At Griffin, we have 13 students who are quarantining. 6 of those are travel related. There were some families who went away over the break and needed to quarantine when they returned. At the middle school, there are 8 students who have, or 8 members of the community who have travel related quarantines. And at the high school, it's 15 members of the community who have travel-related quarantines. And their numbers at the high school are at 0, so they're not seeing an increase at this point. The other thing I'll just share with the board, oh gosh, Tom didn't give me his numbers, but Dan at Griffin, he picked up 9 students in person with the March 1st shift. So he has 9 more students attending in class. And I know that put a little more strain on the classrooms because, if you're adding one more body into a room that's been sort of laid out and everybody's figured out how to move and keep their physical distancing, that's just one more wrinkle for people to deal with in the middle of that. So that's what we have on the coronavirus front. And I'll just pause and see if anybody has any questions for me on that.
Yeah, can you just, as I mentioned earlier, I asked, just because people are going away again in April. So if we follow the guidelines as of today, I know in April it could be different, but what is the travel guidelines for the school district? I know that the school district guidelines are a little different than the state guidelines. So just so that there's clarification out there for the people who may travel in April, and I realize that things could be different and we may be in a totally different situation, or we may just have to turn and do something different. But as of today, as it stands, just for clarification.
Yep. So basically, if people travel out of New England, we're expecting that they will quarantine for the 10 days when they return. There are provisions in the guidelines that suggest if a person has received a vaccine, that they don't have to quarantine. There are also there's suggestions in the guidelines that say if a person has been COVID positive in the last 90 days, they don't have to quarantine either. I will tell you that that language conflicts with other parts of the documents. When you read these documents on a whole, you end up getting kind of twisted up on it because there's another clause that says a person who is COVID positive, while they may personally be immune to getting another variant of it, they could still pick up the variant and transmit the variant to other people. It very clearly says that. And it also says that a person who has received the vaccine and therefore has individual immunity against a variant also could carry the variant and introduce that into the schools. So based on that read of it, and the other thing, just to be really clear, is all of these documents begin by talking about essential travel only. If you look at the state website, it says, if you remember, the first thing we did was called Stay at Home 1.0. Then it was Stay at Home 2.0, which was ramped up because the cases were getting worse. And then we went into a Safer at Home model. And the Safer at Home model says avoid non-essential travel. And these documents all say that recreational travel is not advised. It should be for some very specific reasons that a person travels. So our read of all of that, and again, our team is tasked with making sure everybody in the schools stays safe. And based on that, we are playing it a little bit more conservative, perhaps, by asking that people, in fact, stay home in quarantine and not allowing those exceptions unless it's a clear, essential, exception that gets spelled out.
Dr. Jetty, who's on your team that helped you make this decision? I'm just curious. What do you mean by
the
our
administrative team, every single morning we meet with the school administrators and the directors, and we review our COVID numbers. So that spreadsheet that everybody's looking at, now updated to March. That spreadsheet we review and we discuss those numbers, so everybody knows exactly where they are. And we talk about these exact scenarios, and we will point out to each other, like, well, it says this here, but it says that there. And then what is it that we want to do? I know that there is one, and we also, by the way, we also consult with our nurses, so that the nurses are involved in the discussions.
Yeah, that was my question.
They provide us with feedback. I got an email from a parent today who says that the nurses disagree with me on this, and I am going to set a meeting up tomorrow with the nurses. The first I heard that, I would like to think that we would be having a conversation, but we're going to have a conversation to figure out exactly where we are with it. And and then I think the other piece is that the parent who was frustrated, I know, reached out to the State Department of Ed and specifically asked, what the schools had to follow. And the Department of Ed said it's up to the local schools to make that decision. So their answer was, look, these are guidelines and expectations, and the school needs to make that ultimate decision. So I will apologize to any parent who misunderstood that. But I will also urge any parent with questions to contact us. From day one, we have been navigating through just some pretty confusing information that's available at both the state and the national level. And there have been times the state level has disagreed with the national level, and we've had to make a decision what to do at the local level. So it has been a little bit clunky to figure out, but we are doing our best. And I go back to the communication that we sent home to families all along. We have said, if in doubt, contact us and ask the question, and we'll help guide you through it. And sometimes we don't know the answer right away. We have to refer and look and try to figure it out, and then we'll get back to people on that. So we've been very, very open, very transparent about communicating with families who have questions.
Can you keep us updated on that? Because I know there are a lot of parents that need to may have made plans for April vacation with the hopes they were vaccinated. And I think the more communication we have, we won't have any questions.
Right.
And my other question or comment is, do you know what other districts are doing? I know my district followed what we did about traveling in February, but I don't know what what they're going to follow in April.
That's the
Yeah,
same.
so it's kind of all over the map.
Oh, all right.
That little thing. So we do talk to each other. The superintendents have meetings, and we compare. Okay, how are you handling this? How are you handling that? I know that there are districts that told their staff point blank, do not travel. You are not permitted to travel. We have not taken that stance. We've asked people to, you know what the rules are, you know what the risks are, and if you decide to travel, then you're accepting that you're quarantining. So you're extending the time period that you're out because you can't travel internationally or domestically and then return back to the classroom. So we try to be really clear with our staff that that's something they just have to factor in, and we've done that pretty much since the start of the year.
We also had these conversations when we were putting together the opening plan document that as far as travel, they would be on their own if they traveled.
Oh, you mean staff
Staff.
or staff?
Yeah. I think,
students?
I mean, I kind of, to play devil's advocate, I see both sides. I mean, I
Absolutely.
think when the original email from Dr. Jetty came out, the message was follow travel guidance. And I think that could have been interpreted as state travel guidance, or it could have been interpreted as district travel guidance. I think moving forward, if we've learned anything from, this kind of these questions, it's that we need to be absolutely clear on what the plan is, and we've kind of said that from the beginning.
And
There's-
specific.
Very specific, and there's there are still parts of the opening plan that we follow and parts that we
Yeah.
aren't currently doing. And I think
No, but I think Dr. Jetty just spelled it out clearly as far as what
right, but
travel restrictions are. And again, come April, they could be totally different.
right, and I understand that, but always communication and crystal clear communication, eliminates any kind of doubt. So moving forward, I just propose that we are, we like this, hopefully this is a one-off and everybody is
Right.
in the
Probably the
know
thing to
and
do
has
is
all
a
the
couple
same
weeks
information. Right.
before April vacation is send out the guidelines of travel.
Mhm.
That's all.
So I also think from a communication perspective that we can't assume that if we put it in one email, that it's
Yes.
going to be seen. We have to on a regular basis, our messages have to go out several times.
Mhm.
So, I know a lot of the principals keep some of the same messages in and,
Yeah.
so that's, that I think that's a good practice to,
Mhm.
to follow.
And I think, Mike, your message was included in all three of the school's messages. Mr. Mitchell, did a good job kind of explaining what the guidelines are. It was it was that kind of additional information was missing from the LMS news, and unfortunately, Mr. Lonergan's newsletter came out on Thursday of last week. So it seemed like a last minute change in decision. But if that had gone out on the Friday before, I think the confusion would have been eliminated. So just timely communication, something we can all work on.
I called a parent who was very frustrated by all this and had a conversation, and explained that sometimes I'm taking for granted what I
Right.
have said 50 times.
Yeah.
And I know it hasn't been necessarily put out there 50 times, but between having conversations with staff members, conversations with our team, so to me, it sometimes feel like it has been out there a little bit more than perhaps it has. So I acknowledge that was a flaw and something that we need to try to tighten up. And the other thing is that the essential travel aspect of it, which to me is just glaring as a key component of it all. So when we're saying follow the guidelines, again, people look at this multi-page document and they go to a certain section of it and they say, aha, there it is. This is what I have to do. But that's in context of the overall document. So, our team is definitely looking at things more holistically because we're studying the overall, what is it we're trying to do? And at the end of the day, it's not about making it more difficult for anybody. It's not about making it frustrating for people. It is about keeping it safe for everybody else. And, and here's another thing. I just want to say this to the public. I'm not judging anybody's decision to travel. If there's a family that decides they need to travel, then that's a decision they make, and that's their family decision. However, when making that decision, you do have to factor in, so what's the impact of that? The one parent is frustrated because it means the child has to be engaged in remote learning, which isn't the favored way of learning for the child. They want to be in person. But that's one of those, that's in the detail, and it's something that you have to sort of factor in as you are weighing whether to make that trip.
And hopefully, as we get more data about the variants and, natural immunity and the vaccination rollout and whether we're protected against the variants, hopefully this, the data will catch up and we'll have a clearer answer hopefully by April break.
I doubt it.
Well, we'll see.
With the current administrative push to vaccinate adults pretty quickly, they're saying that we'll all be vaccinated by Memorial Day. If that's true or even comes close, we could be at a different threshold in April that allows us to make a different decision. But I think it's important we put out now exactly what the guidelines are, and then that we just provide an update if it's something that we're going to shift as we get closer.
I just
One
want
other thing for the board to know, I know that you've received emails and there's been a lot of online chatter. I've also received emails from parents who have thanked me for this sort of the steady approach to all of this. And they were frustrated by some of the parent chatter thinking that it was outrageous when they're like, you guys have been saying this all along. So there is a balance to it from parent emails that have come in, which I don't know that the board has necessarily seen, but there are parents out there who recognize that we've done a pretty remarkable job. When I said that we're a beacon of light, for the governor to have to order schools to be in person no fewer than 2 days a week, and we've been basically 5 days a week fairly consistently. We've figured this out. We've done a good job in Litchfield, and have served, I believe, our students and our parents very well with the model that we've had.
Thank you. That'll bring us to the manifest. Any questions on the manifest?
Is it here?
All right, then we'll go back to community forum. Do we have anyone online?
Oh, hang on. Sorry. That's me, right? All right. So I'm joining into the public board comment, and Pat Keefe is here. So I'm going to admit Pat in. Hey, Pat, it's Mike. How are you?
Thanks, Mike.
So you're in a nobody's seeing your image because I am at home, but they can all hear you. So this is your chance to have public comment with the board.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I just want to speak on behalf of the Litchfield Education Association. If you don't know me, my name is Patrick Keefe. I'm the president of Litchfield Education Association. And this has to do with vaccinations. I would like to request that if we can, and Mike, Stacy, and I did speak to you about this last time we met, but I wanted to also bring this up to the community. Teachers would like to have vaccinations on site if we can, so that it's made convenient for us, much like a flu clinic, and have the COVID vaccinations on site, and therefore we don't have to take personal time to go get the vaccinations. I know the governor said last week that the 2A would phase in during the first week of April, maybe. I'm hoping with the Johnson & Johnson's even before then. But I know that Stacy, Stacy Leary, the vice president of the LEA, and I spoke with Mike, and Mike did say that he was working on trying to see if he could make that happen. And I would just like to sort of reiterate that to Mike and to the community that would be helpful for us to have those vaccinations because it's so important. As Mike pointed out, when other communities have not been full-time in school, they've been in either a hybrid remote or a fully remote. I know my kids I'm in Hooksett. We don't have a high school here, so we have different districts. I have a daughter at Londonderry High School. They're in a hybrid. Hooksett, I have a daughter at the Hooksett Middle School, and they've been in and out of remote and full-time in school. And I have a son in the Manchester School District and at West High School, and they've been remote a lot of the time. They phased them back in. But Litchfield teachers have been in a full-time in-school model most of the time. And we think it's really important for us to be vaccinated and for the district to sort of recognize that we're also making a sacrifice being here every day. We're having to do our jobs and we love it. But there obviously are some health concerns being in a full-time in-school model. So if you guys could help us, if you could facilitate vaccinations, we'd really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Patrick. And if I may share, so we talked about, we had learned that Londonderry School had set up was taking registrations for their staff to get vaccinated. And immediately, we reached out to Londonderry. I called the superintendent, and Holly Falzone, our HR director, called their HR director to say, how did you get this? Did we miss an email? Is there something that we didn't see? And what we learned is that they were contacted by a health organization in southern New Hampshire, I guess, and they were asked to get this thing set up because they've been tasked with the state with being ready to get shots into teachers' arms. And we also learned the other district that they had contacted and set up already was Salem. And so we recognized we're unfortunately going with the bigger districts first, but we have made contact with them and have urged them to consider us and to get on the list because we'd like to do exactly what Patrick has suggested for our teachers and support staff to get, the clinic on site for those who want to take advantage. And so we'll keep everybody posted. I mean, if we can make this happen, it's the right thing to do. I do think the governor's point, which is that you probably don't want to do an entire staff on one day in case there is a reaction to the vaccine. You probably want to have a more measured, phased-in approach to that. But we'll work with them to try to figure out how to make all that work.
I heard also, Mike, I don't know if this is correct, but a couple of the smaller schools up north too now have also been allowed to do that. I haven't confirmed that yet, but
Well, in the North Country, they look big. That's our problem is that we are a small fish in a bigger sea. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks,
great.
Patrick.
Patrick, I'm going to sign you out and sign you back in. Thank you.
Thank you, board.
And is there anybody else on from the community?
Nope, it was just Patrick.
All right.
Dr. Jetty, did they mention Manchester or Nashua? Is it Salem? I believe is all in, aren't they? I thought they were an all-in district. Like, why did they pick Salem and Londonderry? I can see Nashua, Manchester, Salem, but Londonderry is like a mid-sized fish, not a big fish, not a small fish.
Well, I think the other piece, when we reached out to the organization, we learned that we're actually in the Manchester-Nashua catchment. So even though Londonderry's right next door to us, they're in a different health catchment area.
They're in
So
Rockingham County, I think.
reached out to Londonderry and to Salem is covering that part and doesn't even have Manchester. So we were redirected to, again, I don't know the exact term, but it's like, oh, you shouldn't be contacting us. You need to go to these people. And that's who we've now been in touch with. So.
All right. Thank you. So no one else from community forum. So before we go into non-public session, I would just like to recognize Rob Myers as I did at deliberative. And I just want to thank Rob for his 3 years of service to the school board. And it's been a pleasure, Rob.
Oh, it's been
And we'll
great.
miss you.
It's been a great experience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, we'll go into non-public session, RSA 91-A:311. Yes.
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 Yeah, now we're non-public.